everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which sees the Expend4bles coming out and expected to only have a $11.7 million opening weekend, according to Box Office Pro, with the people over at Deadline's box office saying that it's going to aim somewhere between $15 and $17 million. So this is one of those rare occasions where the number coming from Box Office Pro is actually lower and quite a bit lower than the Deadline so-called box office experts number. And so it's going to be interesting to see where this falls. But ultimately, if either number ends up coming out to be what the film makes, let's just say it's not looking good for Expend4bles. And something that I think some people may have forgotten is that when you look to the last of the Expendables movies, it actually didn't even make its money back. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And also we've got some updates on The Nun 2, A Haunting in Venice, and plenty more. So before we get further, please make sure you smash that like button, light up the fire button, and smash the rumble button as well. And also make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with that bell notification. That way you know every time a video or live stream goes live on the channel. So I also want to start off by saying this will be my last video for quite a bit because my baby girl is going to be born sometime tomorrow morning. Induction scheduled for this evening. So thank you in advance for any prayers and well wishes. But if you're wondering why there's no box office breakdown this Sunday, or really any videos over the next couple weeks, and again, I really can't put a timetable on it because you can't really time these things. Thank you again for understanding in advance. But anyway, getting into Expend4bles. Why do movies make their titles spell like this? Reminds me of the days of the Fan 4 stick. Now we've got the Expend4bles. So Expend4bles is expected to make around $11.7 million according to Box Office Pro. And as I mentioned, $15 to $17 million according to Tony over at Deadline. Good old Tony. Another sleepy autumn weekend, he says, at the box office when actors can't promote their movies due to the strikes, because we all know that some reason has an impact on the box office. It's just so funny that they're still running with this narrative. Again, clearly it's in support of the strikes and everything like that, to say, well, your movies would make a lot more money if your actors could go out there and promote it. Now, granted, would the promotion probably bring some people to the theater? I'm sure that it would. But to honestly say that people are just sitting and waiting for an interview to come out featuring Sylvester Stallone or featuring, whoever is the lead of a given movie, that's just silly. That's just honestly silly, because most people just do not care about Hollywood actors these days, right? We have so many other more important things going on in our lives to have to worry about that. So, even if we are going to have interest in a movie, it's likely not going to be because of some Hollywood actor. And even though, again, I'm a pretty big fan of Stallone in general, Jason Statham is attached to this project as well as just a plethora of other action stars. There's a lot of good stuff in here as far as the actors are concerned that could make it a lot of fun. I myself have just kind of fallen away from this franchise. I thought the first one was fun, and then everything that happened after that, I thought, okay, now it just seems to me to try to be some kind of just cash grab opportunity to try to, make some generic action movie that doesn't really feature that good visual effects, and the fighting is kind of leaving that to be desired. Like, there might be a few moments in there that the fighting can be cool using some more practical effects, especially when you have so many talented fighters in here, right? So many people that could actually do their own stunts, or at the very least make it look very believable. They just rely a little bit too much on CGI, and it looks like this one, especially based on the trailer, is going to use way too much CGI. And so again, they're thinking 15 to 17 million. At least Tony over at Deadline is saying so. And it says right here that range was right around where 2014's Expendables 3 opened, which was around 15.8 million, and not far from where Stallone's last Rambo film resided pre-pandemic in 2019. Now, here is the thing, of course, that Tony always fails to remember and fails to mention, is that you have to, and again, take your drink now, I guess, you have to adjust for inflation. And the other big thing to remember is that even if you just ignore inflation, if you think that doesn't matter, at the very least, we know the average ticket price has grown quite a bit since 2014. You're looking at now in 2023, the average ticket price being roughly $13. Again, this is across the entire North American market, because I know there are some that the tickets prices are as high as $15 to $20 just for a regular base ticket, and then there's other parts of the country where you're probably looking at tickets closer to maybe $7 to $10, right, depending. But back in 2014, we're talking about movie tickets probably being in that $8 to $9 range at that point. So to think to yourself, oh yeah, 15 million sounds really good because it's right up there with Expendables 3. Again, it's a bit of a false equivalency. So Tony, you're giving some false hope, I think, to people who are fans of the franchise. And again, I'm not trying to put anyone who is a fan of this franchise down. I'm just trying to be realistic with y'all. And so again, one, take into account that that 15.7 million is worth a lot more today than what, this $15 million would be worth. And take into account Box Office Pro thinks $11.7 million. And again, when you remember, especially that $13 per ticket, this would be the lowest opening in the entire franchise by quite a bit, especially if you look at just general ticket sales. Kind of giving you a bit of a metric here. If you look at the opening weekends of the previous films in the franchise, the first film actually had the best opening domestically. It opened to $34.8 million back in 2010 and overall made around $268 million by the end of its run. These are all unadjusted numbers here. Expendables 2 made $311 million, so it increased to quite a bit. But then you get into 2014's Expendables 3, and this is again where it started to fall off, especially for me, because it's just like, okay, it's the same thing over and over. It's just you're getting a bunch of random new people in, and is that supposed to drive me out? Again, for some people, you just want to see these action stars. You just want to see these old action stars back on screen. And again, obviously, they're bringing in some young blood too. And again, if that's something that you enjoy, hey, more power to you, kudos to you. But ultimately, it's not really selling tickets. It's not driving a lot of people out. I mean, even at its heyday, $311 million worldwide, even unadjusted, is just not all that impressive. And then when you take into account it made $100 million less in 2014, you have to, again, keep that in mind. Not to mention that $209 million, when you compare that to the $100 million budget, you know that I'd use a 2.5 times multiplier in order to gauge the overall success of a movie. And that means that that film ended up losing money. So interesting that they were able to justify making Expend4bles. My imagining is that they probably made a little bit of cash on Blu-ray and 4K sales. This is obviously before streaming, so they were able to sell probably the rights to it to show on television, right? All the Expendables movies to show on television, and so you can get a lot of money from those kinds of deals. And then, of course, also the early days of streaming, them probably being able to sell certain rights and distribution rights to certain films. I'm sure they were able to make some of that money back, but ultimately, when you have a box office flop in a movie, you typically don't see the justification, especially for clearly a niche movie, right? A niche market. Again, you're not looking at massive, giant numbers here. So there's clearly a dedicated fan base that shows up for it, right? So you're looking at around $200 million of dedicated fans, and I suspect that you might see a similar number there by the end of this run. But it is interesting nonetheless to see how they were able to spend yet another $100 million on a franchise that was barely profitable the first time around and was not profitable at all the second time around. So again, take all these numbers, of course, with a giant grain of salt, and it's just not looking good. Right now, I'm projecting, and again, I won't be able to do my box office projections this Sunday, but I'm going to go ahead and just give a long-term projection that my guess is Expend4bles will be a box office flop. It most likely will have a pretty gigantic loss of money for them, and again, I have nothing against them. That's just where the numbers currently are kind of standing. Coming in the second place is expected to be The Nun 2, expected to drop another 39%. So also continuing to do very well. It's actually going to be beating. It's going to be going into its third week or so of release, and that means it's going to be beating the second weekend of A Haunting in Venice. Haunting in Venice, though, is not expected to have the worst drop in the world of 46%. It still needs to make quite a bit of money to break even, so it's not looking like that's going to happen for this movie. But again, that's not really all that surprising, especially after last weekend's pretty abysmal numbers where it was essentially losing to The Nun 2, which again, opening weekend for Haunting in Venice last weekend, Nun 2 was going into its second. You then have Equalizer 3, also still hanging around a little bit. I still think, again, it's a movie that's worth going to see, but ultimately the box office is going to be what it is. Still has a chance to make its money back, but we'll have to wait and see where all these things end up. And we'll go ahead and do this live because we like to do things live here over at OMB Reviews. And so let's go ahead and pull up my chart. We like doing charting here as well. So as you can see right now, Expend4bles is indeed in the chart. I have the budget in there as well and my typical break-even points. It has opened internationally early in some markets, and so as of the last update, it was around $10.7 million. And so as you can see, it has to make quite a bit to break even, right? The $250 million mark. If you look at A Haunting in Venice, this film also just not doing a whole lot. It's probably not going to be able to make its money back based off of the numbers that we're seeing. So again, we're probably going to see the projections for the weekend not be the biggest losses in the world. I'm looking probably $20 to $40 million in losses, according to the charting, most likely. So we'll have to wait and see. And as you can see also with Equalizer 3, it is definitely not pacing all that well right now. First 2 weeks account for 80% of its entire box office. Not a number that you want to see at this point. It's not doing the worst things in the world, but obviously it could be doing a lot better. But ultimately it will be, again, a film looking like it's pacing to end somewhere near that $180 million range, which would put it right at that break-even point according to my charting, but that's never something that you ever want to be at. You don't want to be at the bare minimum of breaking even typically at the box office. But really, those are the big numbers as they currently stand. Do you think Expend4bles is going to be able to make its money back? You also got My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, which, again, not looking like it's doing much of anything. Barbie, still hanging around as well. Very impressive, especially since it's available to buy on on streaming platforms at this point. You do have a new independent film, It Lives Inside, from Neon, coming out to 2,000 screens, expected to make around 2 million. So again, for that kind of film, it seems to be a pretty good number there. Blue Beetle continuing to be a financial loss. TMNT is getting very close to that break-even point. And then you have Dumb Money, which is getting 675 screens and unfortunately is not anywhere near me. And this is one of my most anticipated films of the year. There's not a whole lot of films to be excited about, but this one dealing with the whole GameStop stonk situation, and you got Paul freaking Dano in it. Sign me up. Unfortunately, though, I probably won't be able to see that anytime soon, so we'll have to wait and see. But those are the numbers as they stand. Let me know your thoughts. Also, go check me out over on Criticlist. I know I've mentioned this several times in videos and on streams, but I'm loving this site, dude. I got to actually talk to the two guys that are running the site last night, and they are awesome. It was really cool getting to hear their vision. They were able to confirm a lot of things. I know that there were some initial concerns about, how are they making money? Are they selling data? They confirmed, and they promised to me that they were not doing any such thing, that they are operating right now at a point where they are trying to put literally everything they possibly can into this to be successful. So they're in this thing for the long haul. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun. One thing I know is that they have shut down signups on their website because they were attacked by bots, and apparently cost them a bit. So if you want to sign up for the app, go ahead and download it on Android or iOS. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way, full transparency. I just really like this app. I know that the Salty Nerds are going to get a sponsorship for October, but I am not, and I just really love what they are doing over there. And if you want an alternative to things like Rotten Tomatoes or to even Letterboxd, I think that this is a great alternative with a very fun retro vibe. So go check that out, Criticless, and follow me over there at OMB Reviews. Anyway, that's going to be it for me today, everybody. Stay tuned to the chart. I'm going to try to update it when I can. I might have, free moments here and then to update those charts. I do have these also set to auto update, and so they should be auto updating, I hope, over the weekend, just to give you an idea, right? If I take these out and then undo, it starts to reload what the current values actually are at this point. So again, stay tuned to the chart over at OMB Reviews. The second chart will be the live updated chart, whereas the first chart you see up there is one I have to update manually. So I'll do what I can with it, but anyway, thank you all for your time. Thank you for your attention. You guys are all wonderful, amazing, beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day. See you when I am a dad once again. And as always, God bless.
And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members: Father Luca Illich, Laura, the Mother Major General's Story, Rosetta Allen, check out her YouTube channel by the name Eagle Rider, Miss Martin Muses, check out her YouTube channel by the same name. Also to Matt317, check out his Twitch channel of the same name. Mr. Roy and ZK-Man, check him out over at xtheboundaries.co. Thank you very much for being my Chosen members this month, and if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, also access to a podcast, access to a giveaways channel, and tons of other stuff, go check out to be a member today in the links in the video description below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.